The unfortunate news this evening, Rob, huh?
Of Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. Let's just wait and see if that happens. We can just chat and if someone comes in.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh well, it'll still, these videos still record, and they go out as a normal video anyway. Yeah.
News.
So.
I couldn't believe it when I got the WhatsApp earlier.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, but at the same time, a little bit expected.
Yeah. Ozzy Osbourne would pass away this quick after such a mega show that I believe took almost 2 years to put together. I did see an interview with Sharon. I believe she said 2 years. Nearly sure. Maybe it was one, but something's telling me 2 years. To organize all these bands and to orchestrate everybody with, these mega bands, like, Guns N' Roses and Metallica and Gojira and all these Pantera, huge, huge bands, to kind of orchestrate their busy schedule and to fit everybody in and line everybody up. But, initially when I got the message from you, Rob, right, I was kind of going, oh my God, Ozzy's gone, But then something came over me. I was kind of happy. I know that sounds mental, but I think that he got to kind of attend his own funeral. Lane Staley, singing Nutshell on the MTV Live was the closest thing to singing at your own funeral. I believe if Ozzy had a choice of what way to go out, surrounded by his family, surrounded by music legends who he influenced all the way through his career, these people meant so much to him. That group photo shot comes to mind, Rob. It's heartbreaking too. Like that moment. Like literally, I swear to God, the more I think about it, like it is the perfect way to go out. It is. Like there's no good way to go out. Like, but I think if you could write a script of how a rock star should bow out after a awesome career, I mean that's not a bad way to go.
Celebration with all your friends and family in a place that means so much to you, a place, that's rooted in history, from a football point of view, but also from your home city of Birmingham, and the roots where they grew up, Black Sabbath, where that band was put together, only a stone's throw from the stadium. And, they had to overcome so many obstacles in the music industry between, managers trying to screw them over and people not taking them seriously. And of course, the whole accusations of being, devil worshippers and all this nonsense, it's
all over them.
Of course, and at the end of four normal lads from Birmingham, four working class lads who just believed in music and the power of music, and they just wanted to get out there and share their music with people. And by God, like what an influence they had on the world of hard rock and heavy metal. Like the ripples can be felt all over the world.
Ozzy Osbourne is on everybody's tongue this evening, tomorrow, this week. Like you said, Robbie, he influenced so many people, and even his solo career as well. Randy Rhoads and so many of these other guitarists. Like he had an absolutely stellar lineup with him the whole way with Black Sabbath and his solo stuff. We touched on earlier on your channel, um, even his bass players. Rob and Mike Inez and drummers as well. They were all there 2 weeks ago with him. That's what I mean. Like this family that he created, his life, his journey, his passage through life. They were all there in Villa Park with him 2 weeks ago. Like it's sad. It is sad. It really is. But the more I think about it, I'm kind of happy for him. he was struggling. He was sick. We all know how sick he was. He was struggling this last 2 years. He probably had to rest and train and get the best of his ability. And by all accounts, he killed it. Like obviously, I mean, the man was struggling, but by all accounts, diehard fans said that show was amazing. It was special, you know. But it really is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. His family and they seem like such a tight knit family. His daughter and the sons and his other daughters that didn't really want to be in the limelight as well. Like it just seemed like they were so tight, and it's going to be heartbreaking for them after such a show. You know.
Um, it was. I have to say one thing about the show that was a great celebration of his life and his work. Um, like uh, all the musicians that took part. From biggest acts in the world to up and coming bands. Everybody was included. They all took a Black Sabbath or an Ozzy Osbourne song, but like when you listen through to the covers that were played on the day, like unbelievable. The depth of music that was in Black Sabbath and Ozzy solo career. It's unmatched, I think, like in the world of rock and metal.
He was just such an important figure, and like you said, like so many people looked up to him. People that we adore now. Like we were probably too young to be in the present time of the Black Sabbath era, of course. But like when we look at our favorite bands and be that whoever, like all kind of hard rock, classic rock, all that kind of stuff, he is in that pile that has influenced so many people. And even we touch on Youngblood, Rob. Like his style is kind of different. He's standing out from the crowd. His performances are kind of a bit, some people might say, he's on the borderline of certain things, but he's pushing the boundaries like Ozzy did. And there's another new up and coming artist who Ozzy influenced.
I think like a lot of people maybe didn't think his vocals were of the highest standard. Maybe the likes of an Ian Gillan or Robert Plant or Roger Daltrey or something like that. But I have to say, on the day when people were covering the Black Sabbath stuff, a lot of these artists were struggling to hit the notes, and that just shows you actually what a good range Ozzy had. And I think he had the perfect vocals for Black Sabbath, and then obviously his own solo stuff. Like he was a great vocalist in his own right, and I think sometimes that gets forgotten. So it was interesting to see some of these high profile singers struggling to keep up with his vocal range.
Yeah, yeah. We got a comment there from Jason Watson. Was at Villa Park a few weeks ago. Was the best rock metal show from start to finish. This is hitting me hard. Yeah, man, it's hitting us all hard. It's kind of shot out of nowhere. Like we touched on earlier. Yes, we knew Ozzy wasn't well, and just didn't think it was going to be this close. You know, I seen on some of the forums today, and people were celebrating it and sharing the pics and the confetti that was at the show and all the different stuff. You know, I just wasn't expecting this so close. Not sure where he passed. Was it America or UK? I have a funny feeling it could be the UK because maybe some of you guys might know. Like, I believe he done like a meet and greet after the show and was taken. You could get a picture with him, and someone please tell me in the comments, was that after the show? I believe it was, and like I guess he, yeah, yeah. The photos with the meet and greets with the you could get it with Sharon and the whole family and all that. Was that at that It was a Comic Con. You're right. Now it's ringing a bell. That's where you could go and get. You had to pre-order, Jason. If you can back me up here, you had to pre-order the shots, and you could go then and get the pictures. God, imagine getting a picture with Ozzy then, man. That's golden. Anybody here go and get that? Um, Treasured memory. Like if you got to meet him like last week and get a picture, like Jesus. Um, I have a mixed bag of emotions, Rob. I'm like, I'm gutted and I just can't believe it happened. And so close to the show that will be spoken about for the next 20, 30 years to come, maybe longer, because it was epic.
Remembered in those terms, and rightly so. Yeah, no, nothing's ever gonna match that concert. Artists that performed, I thought Metallica were amazing. Of course, they covered "Hole in the Sky" from Sabotage and Johnny Blade from Never Say Die. Um, Absolutely brilliant. Metallica bring their A game all the time. Just I think they're a great. They're not only a great metal band, they're a great rock band and a great covers band. You know, and I thought they stole the show. Certainly at the latter half of the day, and I thought Gojira as well were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. They weren't so good on the cover of the Black Sabbath song. I think it was maybe a little bit outside their certainly the singer's range vocally, but when they played their own stuff, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Um, Rival Sons also stood out for me. I thought they were amazing. They were on quite early in the day, and Mastodon kicked off. I thought they were amazing as well. Yeah, so plenty of standout performances on the day. It was a great day of music. What about yourself, Gav?
Blew me away very early and very kind of wasn't expecting it. Had seen trickles of him online and some of his stuff, and never really dove into it yet. But I have to say, I thought his performance was absolutely amazing. Um, I think I agree, Mastodon, a tough opening slot, but Jesus, I thought they were unbelievable. But when Ozzy came up out of the floor, on the throne, Jesus, how much is that throne going to be worth now? I just see a comment there by Jason. £500 to £750 to get a photo and an autograph. Damn. It's uh it's just yeah. I just can't put into words. I'm kind of a mixed bag of emotions. I keep repeating myself here, but it's just like I still think that if anybody could write a script for a rock star to go out after so close to a show like that, surrounded by his family, his friends, to be able to rock out with his original lineup, his band, and they did kill it, man. Like, look, they had wobbles, but I mean, Jesus Christ, their age. But we can't even talk about them. Yeah, we can't. I shouldn't even have said that. But like, even like to see Giza play that bass, man, his fingers. I'm like, how is he doing that at this age? You know, they were flawless, and you could see even as he was in the chair, you could see he just wanted to get up and go crazy. Like, it's going to be sad looking back at that now, man. It's going to be really sad looking back at them. looking back at these videos of that day and him on the stage, and like I said earlier, the group chat or the group photo with all the musicians, like everybody was in there from his past bands, of course, and the bands that he influenced, and that shot is golden, man. Ross Halfon took that shot. Like, that's going to be all over the papers and social media. Probably is already as we talk here now. I'd say that shot is everywhere. But yeah, it's a sad day. Um, well,
believe it or not, on audiobook, and I'm not that far into it, to be honest, but really, really enjoying it. It's all the early part of his life. It's on at the moment. Um, and when they got into Black Sabbath, and they were starting to, gig, it's that kind of that part of the story. But yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's very interesting to see his upbringing, and Birmingham back in the 1950s and 60s. Very dark place. Yeah, yeah. Well,
you could tell it better than me about the notice up in the was it the record store?
and he had bought a PA, or his dad had bought him a PA. So he was one of the few singers in Aston or in Birmingham that actually had a PA. So he had the notice up. He was looking for musicians to jam with, and I think he was in a band or two, but it didn't work out. They went their separate ways. He was with Geezer in a band, wasn't it? Ozzy. It wasn't Ozzy Osbourne. It was Ozzy Gibb or Glib or something. Was something
Naomi, he showed up and he's like, "Oh, it's not you, is it?"
when Tony Iommi knocked on his door.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He was the class clown, or the year clown.
yeah. But I mean, like, not too long before that. Sorry, jumping across you, Rob. Like, he was robbing houses, and he was like, he was just trying to get by.
Taste a bit of real time, and his dad decided to let him taste a bit of real time. I thought that was, you know, powerful, but there was no money. They didn't have money. Like, this was the thing. They were regularly hungry going to bed at night. Like, he was in a family of, was it six? Was it four older sisters and him and his brother? That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. She kind of looked out for him, but yeah, and then he was going through the different jobs he had, in the, was it the horn factory and the slaughterhouse. Jesus, the stories about the slaughterhouse. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a Naomi. Yeah, yeah,
like, they were obviously in England back in the 1960s, early 1970s. They were kind of like a blues band, so they were taking inspiration from the likes of Cream and Led Zeppelin, but I think they weren't considered as good as Led Zeppelin, or Deep Purple, or any of these bands. And You can see there. That's a picture of the band. Uh, through this booklet so many times, like it's crazy, so hard to believe. Um, there he is with that's a great shot of him and Tony in the park there, and then you have the other lads on the other side. But the big thing was, as we were talking about imagery and everything, it was the upside down cross, wasn't it? Which is it's very common now, but back then that was sacrilege, especially in the States. You spent a bit of time living in the States. You can tell us all about the Bible Belt and how fanatical they are there about Christianity and everything. Okay.
I did go to Tennessee before, and you definitely feel a change. It definitely, and I'm sure in the, I guess that was what, the 70s, right? The early albums was the first. Yeah, like I can imagine, and it touches it on the book as well, as Ozzy said. Like, there was cops running them out of town. They were banned from certain cities for years. I think there was a place in Texas that they were banned for like 2 years, and they got talking to the mayor of the city or something, and he kind of gave them a pass to go back in because they got banned for so long. But 100%, and it still happens today, with other bands, and Slipknot comes to mind, where the goats and stuff like that, the demonic stuff. It's just imagery. It's just a theatrics, and if it helps to sell records, albeit. But I guess when Ozzy bit the bat and stuff like that later on in his career, that didn't help things.
Or he had always said that, he just thought it was a rubber toy bat. He didn't know what it was. It was something flying through the air, and he was probably, chemically enhanced that night, as he always was. So he just grabbed it and bit it. And then I saw an interview of him shortly after that, and they were talking about, him biting the bat. But the whole joke afterwards was that the bat needed a rabies shot after he got bitten by Ozzy Osbourne. So, yeah. And the other guy, only for they couldn't wake him up. Yeah,
Let's just say, and he had no license or nothing, and they crashed into the van, right? But yeah, 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 something's coming to mind. It was close calls. Let's just say, like Ozzy did have so many close calls, throughout his life, and yeah, the quad bike, that was about 10, 15 years ago. And that was definitely a close one, maybe longer. Um, there's a message here from JL Kilgore. Hello, I am so saddened to hear of Ozzy's passing. He and his music have been a big part of my life. He will be so missed here. Prayers for his family. Yeah, big time. Definitely, we're thinking about all his friends and family at this tough time. But myself and Rob here from Wall Again said we just come on and just chat about Ozzy, because we were kind of flattened and just gobsmacked with this news, Rob. Um,
no,
they had said by watching him and looking at what he had to do between each songs and the inhaler to extend his esophagus and stuff for breathing, and they had said to me he won't see Christmas like, and I'm like, oh okay. I'm like, trust me, like I grew up with this. He's coming to the end, but two and a half, 3 weeks later from that show, I don't think anybody would have guessed. But like we said earlier, Rob, I guess that show really took it out of him. But if he could have done anything to whatever energy he could form and throw out one last night, he did it. He did it with his fans, and he loved his fans, man. He said it 4 million times that night. Love you guys. I'm nothing without you. One thing I have to say, that anything that I've seen of Ozzy or Black Sabbath, they are so grateful for their fans. Yeah,
As I said on my channel earlier, I was lucky enough to see Ozzy live twice with Black Sabbath. Once in 2013 in Brisbane when I was in Australia, and then the second time in Dublin in 2017. And like what you're saying there about Ozzy's thing, I love you all. Like he was constantly saying that on stage. You know, you could really feel that he appreciated his fans. Yeah.
and I'm a mixed bag of emotions here. I'm gobsmacked that it happened, but I'm kind of happy that he got to go out the way he did. Because if I was in his position and I wasn't well, and I guess he was probably sick and tired of being sick, and like, okay, Ozzy, do you want to do this show? Lie around for 12 months, be miserable, and slowly fade off and go into the end of the night? Or do you want to go out after rocking to your die-hard fans with your family, with your not your peers, but so many bands that you influenced, with the guys that you started off with? Like, man, you couldn't ask for a better way to go. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. And and he got to, you know.
And you can see Tony smiling across, and you can just see the camaraderie between the two men. But the fact that it's in color, and there wasn't a lot of color Black Sabbath photos from this era, they really, they don't look like a you know heavy metal dark band there. They look kind of hippie-ish, and it's just, I suppose, looking at it through a different lens, and a lot of people listen to Black Sabbath from back at that time, and they say it's not heavy metal. It's not Metallica, it's not Megadeth, it's not Pantera, it's not heavy metal, it's heavy rock, it's blues rock. And I think a lot of people maybe might get turned off by the name, or that whole dark image. But like, if you like Led Zeppelin and you like Deep Purple, you can't tell me you don't like Black Sabbath. Like, they're related. Like, they're in the same gene pool as those bands, and in my opinion, every bit as good. Yeah, Polka Toke Bland or something, was it? Yeah, Polka Toke Band. Yeah, yeah. Um, well, see, I don't think, I think their music is within a spectrum, So their heaviest album is probably Volume 4, or Master of Reality, and then their most experimental album in the first 8 albums is probably Technical Ecstasy, and within that you have, like, it's a bandwidth. But even no matter how heavy they got, it might have been heavy for the time. But when you moved into the 80s and Metallica and Anthrax and Megadeth and Slayer kind of redefined what was heavy metal, I think they were no longer the heaviest thing. You know, they were the heaviest thing in the 70s, but when you moved into the 80s, they were no longer the heaviest thing. So I think, yeah, I consider them a heavy metal band, because if you think of bands like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Diamond Head, Saxon, like they all owe a debt of gratitude to Black Sabbath, in my opinion. But I think there's loads of blues rock in there. There's psychedelic rock in there, and there's even elements of jazz on some of the Black Sabbath stuff. Jazz rock. Yeah, 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 yeah. Baker. You had, of course, from Ireland, you had the Taste with Rory Gallagher. You also had a band called Skid Row with Gary Moore and Bruce Shields. You know, another fantastic three-piece blues rock band. You had bands from the States like ZZ Top, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Like this whole power trio, blues, psychedelic, it was massive at that time. And then out of that, then I think you had like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and Black Sabbath, each taking that and doing something different with it, you know, and forging their own paths. And that was, those three bands are the blueprint for everything that came after in the 1970s. You know, these American rock bands that came out. You know, the likes of Aerosmith, or Boston, maybe ACDC to a lesser extent. Certainly, Thin Lizzy were very influenced by Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple. So there's a lineage, you know. There's an evolution of music and of rock music, especially around the electric guitar and heavy drums. And Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne are a massive part of that lineage. And I always felt they never got the just credits or desert that they deserved for that music. Like certainly when I started listening to Black Sabbath in the 1990s, early 2000s, they weren't a popular band. They weren't a fashionable band to listen to. You know, it was really on the dawn of the internet, and you know the Osbournes, that shone a light on Ozzy Osbourne. You know, and his career. You know,
And I was definitely late to the Black Sabbath party. Um, Growing up, they were never really pushed on me. Of course, I knew the hits, Paranoid and all them, but the deep cuts on the albums, I never really got into. To be honest, only recently. I'm not gonna lie, and I kind of was like, why was it not more forward? Why was people not more pushing it? I guess the media probably was afraid to touch them as well at times. But yeah, just it's there was such a good band, and you touched on influence as well, like the bass tone that they had, that Giza had, and the style that he played at. And even I know you're a big fan of the drumming as well.
me, Black Sabbath, like the big things that propel the band for me, like obviously Ozzy is a fantastic vocalist, and you know we're talking about the bass being amazing, but it's the riffs from Tony Iommi and the groove, the way he locks in with the drums. The drums are uh, they're bombastic. The fills, especially in a song like War Pigs, you've got all that space, and the fills are like when you listen to that song a number of times, straight away those fills are etched in your memory. It's like a great guitar lead line or something, or a great vocal line. The fills are so important in that song. And it's the way, I suppose, like drummers will talk about it maybe better than me, but he's got a certain sense of swing, a certain groove. He's a little bit late on the snare, and it just propels the songs forward. And if you look at a track like Into the Void, which is on this album Master of Reality, like the whole riff, the detuned riff, but also the drums, like that's your template for grunge right there. Like, bands like Nirvana and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, like that album Master of Reality must have been such an influence on those bands.
So different. Like he's one of the best frontmen ever. Fact. You know, personality and image and everything. What is so important with a frontman? Like Ozzy had a lot. And even his charisma as well, like even like being interviewed in the 70s and 80s, and as wild as they were, like he had a warmness to him. You could feel it in his interviews. It's like you expect this crazy madman, but he wasn't. He was just a gentle madman.
Watch DVDs of Robert Plant, and I've been lucky enough to see Robert Plant live. But when Robert Plant comes out on stage, it's Robert Plant here, rock god. Roll out the red carpet because I am here. And even when he speaks to the crowd between songs, he's he's very. I'm not going to say up himself because I love Robert Plant, but he knows how good he is and how important he is. I get the impression with Ozzy, he's always got that element of, how did I end up here? I am so lucky to be here. And I appreciate you guys so much. And we're all going to have fun and have a party. And I'm going to wave my arms, and I want you to wave your arms with me. I'm going to clap my hands, and I want you to clap with me. You know, like that's Ozzy. It's just pure joy. There's no like kind of trying to be something else with Ozzy. That's what I always found was the difference, say, between him and Robert.
I'm just thinking, like, because of this big, massive show, will it be very. The fact that he got through it, I wonder now, will he want to keep it tight knit and have a very small thing with his family? And kind of the bells and whistles was this show in Villa Park, and kind of, okay, leave us alone now and be with the family. Or would he want to go out again with a bang? I'd say he's the type of lad. He was going back on the book too. I hate saying this now, but he had a massive phobia of death. Yeah, he mentions it a lot in the book that he had a huge phobia of it. So I'm just thinking, I wonder, would he have something in plan to celebrate it? Like, it just kind of crossed my mind there. Um,
and everything else that goes around it, like the beliefs of the person, the religion, and all that sort of stuff. And like with people that are their job is in the media, in the entertainment industry, as it were, they're kind of living two lives. They're living the life that's their job essentially, that pays the bills, the public persona, and then they have their home life. And um, it's just I don't know. Like sometimes a lot of that will come down to the fact what the family want to do, and sometimes like this was like he's done the big show, the big send off. He's done that, right? So that's already been done with the gig at Villa Park. So I think like if the family wanted to have a very small service, like that would be absolutely right, and proper.
grand scheme of things that we've lost a rock legend. And you know what? This is the second one that hit me in the gut. Really, I think the first one was Chris Cornell, and this one is another sucker punch for me personally of rock stars that have passed while I'm old enough to remember them.
Obviously, at that time, and I think, was 11 at the time. So very much aware of who Nirvana were and his influence and stuff. And then, yeah, I remember hearing that news, and then Nirvana became bigger. It was funny that they became bigger after he passed away. That Unplugged album was released and shot up the charts, and everybody had a copy of Nevermind again, and it was very weird, very strange, But then, as moving on, George Harrison, when he passed away, obviously John Lennon passed away before I was born. But being a huge Beatles fan, like, I remember he was sick, and he had someone had broken into his house and he was stabbed, and he never really recovered from it. And yeah, yeah, it was very, very strange kind of thing. It was 2001, I think he passed away, and yeah, he was sick. He was sick, but yeah. So George Harrison was another big one, and then really, yeah, Chris Cornell was 2017, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah, I remember that very well. I was actually I again lucky enough to see Chris Cornell a number of times live, but he was actually back with Soundgarden at the time, and I was hoping that they'd extend the reunion tour to Ireland. And unfortunately, we never got a chance to see if that would have happened because he passed away while on tour. Um, but yeah, that was a big one. There's been a lot, like,
Went, whoa, what? Ozzy's dead? What the fuck? You know? Um,
and I think with the Back to Begin and all of that, it helps to frame it. It's
you fucking hard.
whereas I just finished the Guns N' Roses segment there 3 nights ago, so isn't that just fitting? So I'm going to keep going to the end now, but obviously I'm looking at it through a different lens now. Um, yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, no doubt about it. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I need to prepare for that one.
Didn't dive into them early enough, but I respect him and I respect him for everything he did. And like we touched on earlier, how much he was grateful for every single fan that he had, be that in any country in the world. Like he just loved his fans, and like you said there not too long ago, that he was like, I can't believe I'm here, and he still was like that. He was like, I'm a rock star. I'm doing what I love. Like I shouldn't be here. I should be in jail, you know. And he had, and I think that's why he was so likable. He was just he seemed like a really, really good guy. And he adored his family and he adored his wife. He really did. He treated her like a queen. Like, even in them TV shows, the Osbournes, and I'm sure, when you have a camera on the face, you're going to act a little bit different. But you could tell sincerely that he adored his wife and his family. And yeah, it's a sad time for them. And we're definitely thinking about them all. But yeah, we just said we jump on and mm,
you just see Paul being so warm with Ozzy and Ozzy being so warm with Paul. A mutual respect there, you know. Um, yeah, he never met him. Yeah, yeah. This was the first time he met him, and Ozzy's like, poor Ozzy. He's like a fanboy. He's like, oh, Paul, like I have everything you ever put out. You know, every album you ever put out. And then Paul kind of points behind the camera, and he's like, "Do you remember back in the day? You know, this guy that worked with us. That's him there. You know." Behind the camera or something. And it was and so natural, so not scripted, you know, just two guys, you know, from working class backgrounds who had, you know, difficult challenges in their lives and made it to the top of the music business on their own terms, you know. No. I love the crack, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of this, right? But he had basically put together a wish list of all these unbelievable musicians that he wanted to collaborate with, from Mike McCready from Pearl Jam, Jeff Beck, Slash. There was all these amazing lists of guitar players, and they sat down. Himself and Andrew Watt, his producer, sat down, and they basically wrote and co-wrote this album with all these fantastic musicians, and it was released in 20. I think it was 2022, and they cleaned up at the Grammys, absolutely cleaned up. Eric Clapton actually plays the guitar solo on one of the songs. But it's a great album. It actually, and it's Ozzy's latest release. And I remember when it came out, I you know, listened to it on Spotify. I didn't buy it, but like it was, I was blown away by it at the time. I gave it a couple of listens. Like Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Mike McCready. This is unbelievable stuff. And it went on to win a number of Grammys, like, you know. And funny enough, we were talking about people who passed away. Jeff Beck had passed away a couple of months before the Grammys, so that may have had something to do with, you know, his that song that Jeff Beck co-wrote with him and played on. That ended up winning a Grammy for best rock performance, I think it was. But yeah, I think it was as an album, you know, great send off for Ozzy. Yeah, well, there you go. Like I know Black Sabbath's back catalogue have been pummeling up the charts in the UK and the US as a result of Back to the Beginning. But gotta be. I think No More Tears is a very. I always loved that song. Um, Changes. Now we're going home. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see. I see. Youngblood has released Changes on Spotify as a single last Thursday. Yeah, the live version. Not, you know, they didn't clean it up. It's great. Sounds great. Sounds absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I think yeah, Aussie for number one. Yeah, love to see it happen. Yeah, traditional guitar solo in it. Got a breakdown in the middle, and yeah, it's epic. It's an epic rock ballad. You know, I was disappointed not to hear it on the Back to the Beginning. I thought they would have played it. I've never been a big fan of Mama I'm Coming Home, but obviously with the gig at the weekend. it's got a it's got a bigger, yeah, it's got a bigger appeal now, I think. And then changes, as I said to you before, I was never a fan of changes. The version on Volume 4 really badly played and performed and produced. It just sounds terrible. And then he re-released it in the 2000s with Kelly Osbourne with his daughter to give her a bit of a step up on the ladder in the music world. But I didn't like that either. I thought that was very contrived. But Youngblood's version of it was phenomenal. I had to. You guys were raving about it at the time, and I was like, really don't like that song. But then when I went back and listened again and again, I was like, yeah, to be fair, lads, you're right. That was an unbelievable.
Yeah, look, we said we'd jump on. We're chatting here nearly 55 minutes or so. But yeah, Ozzy's gone. Um, it's a crazy one. I'm gonna have to go now on YouTube and watch some of the stuff from back to the beginning, and yeah, maybe throw on a few albums tomorrow. But yeah, it's a tough one. But
He gave so much to all of us fans. So and he went out in the right way by having a big send off with all his friends and family and work colleagues, as it were. So yeah, look, I think it's sad, but at the same time, I have to tip our hat to him and say, yeah, yeah, agreed. No problem.
video. All right, rest in peace, Ozzy. All right.